Okay, good morning, everybody. I think it's time to start. We're already 5 minutes over time, but okay, I will make it a bit shorter. Anyway, welcome everybody here on the FCH JU premises. I'm happy to see again that we have a full house today. We had at least 150 subscriptions, so we had to stop again earlier our subscription this year. Maybe we have to consider next year for a bigger room. I don't know. Also, to the viewers online, very happy that you can make it, and I hope that you will enjoy this day. Don't hesitate to ask questions also online. There is somebody who will notice your questions and transfer them to us. So, today, Info and Brokerage Day, so very important day. It's our call 2018. We have two more calls, 19 and 20, and then FCH2 is over. So, it's one of the last calls then. Last year in 2017 was actually a fantastic year, I would say, a great year for the fuel cell and hydrogen sector. Not only about our projects, we had really nice, very nice projects in the transport area. Of course, we have the continuation of our big bus projects, JIVE2, which we will have very soon a press release as well. But also we had the garbage trucks, and I think somebody who followed the press, we saw that one in several European cities. We will now put also hydrogen and fuel cell garbage trucks as well. And we had big taxi fleets. I mean, we will put more than 180 fuel cells really in some fleets over Europe. Next to that, also, we went back to really basic research in transport, because that was really a call from the research grouping that they say, well, we should not forget about basic research. So that's why last year we also granted basically 2 projects on low platinum or zero platinum catalyst, to be clear. So this was very important as well. We worked on tanks and aeronautics and so on. In the energy side last year, well, you saw last week we announced the big 10 megawatt electrolyzer in Shell. This was a very important project. I'm looking forward actually to see the results. Also, we start to work now with windmills together with Wind Europe or windmills. So we put electrolyzers very close to the windmills. It's very important to produce the hydrogen. And also, we worked on gensets. On the research area, there we understood that we have to go back to really basic research or very early research to make a next generation of electrolyzers. So all these projects are now signed, they are gone, they're starting now. So we're looking forward really to see fantastic results. But that was about our projects. But if we see what happened really in the fuel cells sector, I mean, everything started really very well last year in January, where we had the Hydrogen Council launching in Davos. Actually, today it's again Davos. Now they are not there, but last year was great, because there we had a big industrial player saying, look, hydrogen fuel cells, that's it. We will put money on the table. And that's important. It's a very huge signal for the politicians, but also a signal that, okay, they believe in it and they put money on the table. So what happened since then is that a lot of huge industry, big players, top 100 R&D spenders, came into the fuel cells and hydrogen game. And that's important, because we need now to scale up, and to scale up you need money. So they are here. As I said, we are also more and more on the political agenda. So we saw the energy package came out last year, or was actually debated last year. Still, maybe there's some fine-tuning necessary, but it started to look good for us, for the sector. Okay. Also, the transport package was launched in November, and actually that one was really nice. I mean, we saw a lot of mentioning of fuel cells and hydrogen in that package. We had the AFI, the Alternative Fuel Infrastructure, first results coming in, where we saw that more than 16 countries want to put altogether in 840 HRSs. We might need to think how we will do that. By 2025, it's very fast, and 800 plus, that's a lot of stations. So we might need to think about that, how to do that. But again, it shows really that we're starting to make noise, and that people start to see our sector. Also, more and more, we see ourselves in the media. And I agree with you, we should be more in the media, but I believe last year it was better. And I hope that this year, more and more, we will be in the media. Because the media, of course, that put the perception of the people. Internationally, and I think that's very important, also we saw big movements internationally. In the past, it was Japan, US, Europe, good. But alone is not good. We need more friends, okay? And we really saw now also like Australia coming in, and the most important, I think you can guess which name I will call now, is China. We saw really China stepping up. They put it, and that's the information I got last year, between 2 to 4 billion euros in this kind of technology. That's a lot of money. So that shows also that our program here is extremely important for Europe to stay at the forefront of this technology. We don't have these big numbers like they have in China, but we have the technology, we have very good people here, very high-skilled engineers who can do great things. So we will also, of course, mention that to the commissioners in terms of the future, because we don't know what will happen, but this year is a very important year, because in 2018 in June, somewhere the first draft of the FP9 will be shown, and of course we are all hoping, together with you, that fuel cells and hydrogen will find his place again in FP9. I have to admit that the signs are positive, but we should not count on it and work very hard to make sure that the politicians are aware of our technology and the necessity to continue to invest. And I make a call upon all of you, because when you go back to your country, please tell to your politicians, and mainly then the finance minister, because he has a lot of say on FP9, that fuel cells and hydrogen are important also for your country, and explain it to them, because they are making finally the decision how FP9 will look like. Anyway, that brings me to 2018, and I'm sure that my team will explain you all the details of which the projects are and what the rules are and so on. But so I will not go into more in details. But one thing I also realized since last year is that we have more and more interest from heavy-duty applications. And we had some workshops last year on maritime, on trains. And you will see that in 2018, I'm sure you already saw it, that we start to focus also like on ships, ports, trucks, and so on, heavy-duty. And at the same time, really go back to very basic research, because we need to drive down further the cost of fuel cell stacks. So we will see that in the projects to become. Also in energy, we continue to work on electrolyzers and raise up, because we need this big scale hydrogen production for cheap hydrogen production. I will leave it here. First of all, I would like still to say thanks to my team, because you did, again, a great job. When I entered this morning in the wait atrium, I saw, oh, fuel cells. It looked very nice and very professional, so thanks very much. Also, I see you use the new layout. By the way, we have a new layout, so you will see today the first time. Well, actually, we started in the PRD days already, but enjoy the great presentations that my team will give. Also, for you again, thanks for coming. Use this day, because you can ask questions here. It's a great opportunity. They are all here, my team. Ask really questions. It's very important. Don't hesitate. There are no stupid questions, only stupid answers. So, yeah, it is. And and also this afternoon, there's the brokerage event. So you again use it for making network to make great projects, because 2017 we had really fantastic projects. There was a huge competition, but we had all great scores, each of the individual projects. So we hope to have again in 2008 the same quality of project proposals, and then we have a very hard time to select them, of course. But please make sure. And if I can make one wish, and my wish is that, as I said, we see internationally more and more hydrogen and fuel cells become important also in other countries. So I hope that we have this year a few project proposals also where there are international cooperations. And so we really stimulate that, because I think we should not keep this technology only for Europe, but we should try to also export our knowledge and export and make some good projects also maybe elsewhere or together with somewhere from another country. So, for example, development countries, basically they are able, or they might join the Horizon 2020 projects, so there's no problem for that. Even they can get some money, some of them, but you will see the list of the projects. They're all in an annex, so if you have questions of these countries, developing countries, don't just ask it. But also with other countries like Canada or US, we have very good contacts with the government, so if you have questions, please do not hesitate, but I hope to see some international cooperation proposals. Thank you very much and enjoy the day. And I hand over to Mirella. She's my head of unit for operations and communications, and she organized with her team this day.
Thank you, Bart. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for the kind words. to me and to my team. I have to say I have a great team. I have to start with that. I'm so happy to see so many of you. I hope that we can fill the room because we had to refuse some participations. And it would be a pity if we have refused participation, people will not show up. But okay, I'm anyway happy to see so many of you. I will not take more of your time, and I will jump directly into my presentation. I will just, for those who do not know us, I hope and I believe we still have people in the room who are not from our community, so still newcomers into our calls, which I think we try to engage every year. And I will present you a bit of who are we, and just a small introduction into the call 2018 and some practicalities. I will try to be quick. I know I have 15 minutes, and I will try to catch up with the delay that we started with. So just for a short recap, why we do hydrogen and fuel cell, it's because it is on the agenda of the European Union and specifically of the Energy Union. And our technologies, fuel cell and hydrogen technologies, contribute to all the targets that Energy Union specifically has imposed, first for 2020, but also by 2030 or even 2050, so for the longer term. As you can see on the left side, we can say that we contribute to all the 5 dimensions of the Energy Union by ensuring security, solidarity, and trust in the energy production, in the energy transition. We can contribute to a fully integrated internal market. We can, of course, our technologies are the highest, can offer the highest energy efficiency in production of energy. We contribute to the climate action, and ultimately, we contribute to creating jobs and competitiveness in Europe, which are the pillars of the research policy. Again, like I said at the beginning, who are we? We are a public-private partnership between the European Commission from the public side and Hydrogen Europe and Hydrogen Europe Research from the industry and research side. What do we want to do? We have, and probably you have heard many times, but I will go quickly. We have mainly 5 objectives. And the 5 objectives are going from the transport side. What do we want is to reduce the fuel cell cost for transport application, of course, while increasing their performances, like durability. On the energy side, we would like to look at green hydrogen production by increasing the efficiency of the electrolyzers, mainly production of hydrogen from water electrolysis. On the heat and electricity production, we would like to have better efficiency of the systems, again, and reducing cost and increasing the performance like durability. On the hydrogen storage, and in fact, it's not hydrogen, it's hydrogen storage for balancing, but it's more related to the energy storage. We would like to prove that hydrogen it can play, and it's the main player, when we talk about energy storage, especially for long term, and can help us to, again, in energy transition. And ultimately, the 5th objective that we have is, while doing all of this, we should reduce the use of critical materials like, for example, platinum, but of course, we have a long list of critical materials that we would like to reduce, which are costly, but of course, it gives us dependency from outside Europe world. When we talk about the structure, in doing the 5 objectives, we have structured our program in 2 main pillars, we call them. And you have seen them also in the call, if you look. When you look at the topics, they are structured in the transport pillar on one side and energy pillar on the other side, the 2 main pillars. On the transport side, we look at road vehicles, but also non-road vehicles and machineries, the maritime, the trains, which were already mentioned by my director, and of course, the related hydrogen refueling infrastructure. On the energy side, we look at both, like I already mentioned, hydrogen production, mainly water electrolysis, but also some other renewable or green routes. And we also look at fuel cell for combined heat and power, for production of power and heat in the same time. And finally, we don't call it a pillar because it's a cross-cutting activities which are linking the two pillars, are issues which are do not matter if are for the transport application or energy application because they are common to both. And they are more like support type of actions, which could be like education, awareness, standards, regulations, pre-normative research. So all these type of actions which are common support activities for both pillars, energy and transport. And on top of, and you will see also through my presentation, but you might have noticed also in the call, we also do some type of overarching activities, which are activities in which we put together the different applications from the energy side to the transport side. And in the call of this year, but my colleagues will get into the details, are the port applications. In doing that, we have a budget of about 665 million. This is public, coming from the European Commission. And we estimate our total budget of the double because our regulation where we were set up was saying that the private funding should be at least the amount of the public funding. So if you multiply 665 by 2, you get the approximately 1.3 billion. The signals we have already after the first call, the first 4 calls, is that we will have more than that. So we already have private contribution higher than the public contribution. What have we done so far? And here I have included also our activities from FCH 1, how we call it, from 2008 already. So we have supported 226 projects. So this is the number of the projects we have committed to, we have signed, for 841 million euro. And again, that's public contribution from the European Commission. And in these projects, you will see a similar leverage of other sources of funding. So it's the private funding of more than that. So I already mentioned the private funding in our projects, it's higher than the public funding already. And again, as we have noticed, we have also additional investment from the private funding of at least another 300 million. I'm not going through the numbers on the right side, but it shows that, again, the balance between the energy and transport is more or less the 50-50. It's 48% for energy, 41% for transport. You can notice also the number of the projects, and you can understand why we have more projects on the energy side, less projects on the transport side, although the amount is different. We have bigger projects on the transport. We have smaller and more diversified projects on the energy side, plus the 6% of the cross-cutting activities and the 5% of overarching, which are going cross-sectorial, if you want. And now that's it with the introduction of who we are, and we welcome questions if you also have on that. And I will jump into the call. So the subject of today. You will also see I've taken from the annual work plan 2018, which is the main document published with the call, which I will strongly recommend you to read. This is a very important document. Do not read only the topic that you are going to apply to. I, again, strongly recommend you read the document, not thoroughly, but go through it because there are other chapters that are relevant for you when you prepare your proposal to understand why we ask certain things. Because everything that we do, even the other activities around our projects, are important for this technology. So please read and please try to understand why there are certain requirements in the call topics. The total budget is about 73 million for this call. We have just published about 10 days ago the call. The call is published on both our website and also the Horizon 2020 participant portal. And you should use the participant portal links to submit the proposal. This is the central system of the European Commission, and we use all the IT systems of the Horizon 2020 of the European Commission. So the main point of publication of the call is the participant portal for transparency and for your easiness, because you might be more used with our website. We also mirror it on our website. So you will find maybe easily the information on our website, but please use the participant portal for submission. Again, my colleagues will explain to you how to do that later. The deadline, in the call it's estimated deadline. However, this is fixed. We can confirm to you that is going to be the deadline. It's 24th of April, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And please also be careful with this hour. We have had in the past problems with people submitting a second after 5 o'clock. That proposal we do not even see. That is not accepted by the system. So my recommendation every year is please start working in the system for submission and send drafts, at least in the system, because you can always come with another draft and overwrite the previous proposal. So start working in the system well in advance, because then in the last 5 minutes before 5, you will get stuck. The system, you can understand that the system gets blocked if every second a proposal is submitted. And I can confirm to you this is what is happening almost every year. Again, I'm not going in details, but I just put few numbers for the call in general. You will see the entire call has 20 topics for these 73 million, with a diversity of actions, from innovation actions, how we call them, and this is more demonstration type of projects, but also research and innovation, and coordination and support actions. So these are the three main type of actions across the call that we support. And you will see that we have about 7 topics for the transport sector or pillar, 8 topics for energy, 1 topic, like I already mentioned, in the overarching, and 4 topics for the cross-cutting. So in total, 20 topics for 73 million. Very tight, in my opinion. And now I will finish with the practicalities. And you have all received, I think, an agenda. We will have a break at 10:30 for half an hour for networking. So please use all the opportunities for networking that you may discuss possible proposals and you build your consortia. Then we'll break at 1:30 for lunch. And in the afternoon from 2:30, you will split in different brokerage sessions, which will be moderated by each of the project officers in their area of competence. And please, in the brokerage session, sit there, present your ideas. I think we have also encouraged you in advance to prepare few slides in 2-3 minutes that you can introduce yourself, your company, or even your idea into this brokerage session, that you can all identify the others and you can then talk to each other and form consortia. And at the end, at 4 o'clock, we will have a networking cocktail that again you can use to network with your identified possible partners. Also in terms of practicalities, we have the whole event is streamed online, so people can also watch us online, and I appreciate and I thank you very much. And again, also encourage the people online to send questions. We have the advantage of the people in the room that they can easily put a question, but also for the people outside, please send questions. I have my colleagues there sitting in front, gathering questions both by email and by Twitter. So please send questions. We will address them in the Q&A sessions. And please we will appreciate if you also retweet and use the Twitter and the hashtag that we just published there. And finally, I already explained the brokerage, but just one more additional comment. You have been given when you register also some points, bullets, different colors. This should identify your area of interest to the others. So I encourage you to use that, because the others can see that you are interested in transport, in energy, so easily to identify you during the networking breaks. So with that, I think I finish my presentation. I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you an excellent day. Thank you. I will moderate the whole day, so you will still hear from me. So I will give the floor now to my colleague, Pietro Caloprisco, and he's the project officer on transport, and he will introduce you to the transport topics. Pietro, you want this?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Mirella. Good morning, everyone. Indeed, I'm Pietro Caloprisco, and I'm part of the transport team together with Lionel Boyot and Enrique Giron. And today I will give you an overview of the transport topics and also of the one topic that we have under the overarching activities. So, first of all, I will give you a bit of a flavor of what is in store for us this year. You have already seen it, and it has been mentioned even earlier. So you will see that there is some element of continuity, because of course we are still focusing on some of the key components of the fuel cell systems, where we have to achieve some developments on the technical side, but still also we need to reduce all the costs. On the other hand, there are some novelty elements, and these were mentioned also earlier, which concern heavy-duty trucks and ships. Now, we are not complete strangers to these topics, of course, but what is new this year is the size of the vehicles, which are within the scope of the calls, and also the fact that we are focusing on the propulsion systems rather than, for example, the auxiliary power units. Then, of course, we will have the time to go a bit more through into each of these elements later as we go through the calls. Now, with this table here, you can see these are the 7 topics dedicated to transport. The first 2 are the demo topics, the innovation actions. You see they share the pot of 17 million of indicative contribution from the FCH JU. However, please bear in mind one thing, it's important here. They have respectively an indicative contribution of 12 and 5 millions. This is a criterion. It means that if you submit a proposal with a higher contribution request, your proposal will be disqualified. Okay, so this does not apply to the following 5 research and innovation topics where we have this is an indicative contribution, and provided that the activities you are suggesting, that your plan justifies it, you can ask also for a higher contribution in that case. So this is just for the overview, and we will now move on to each of the topics. So the first 2 are the demo topics dedicated to heavy-duty trucks and ships. The rationale between these 2 demos is somehow similar. We know that our technology fits these 2 sectors because they are subject to increasing regulation, both in terms of CO2 emissions and quality of air. Now, we can offer what a lot of other technologies can't: faster refueling times, larger energy density, which translates in longer ranges. However, this technical potential then needs to be demonstrated, further explored through demo projects. And this is the logic of, for example, the first call on heavy-duty trucks. You see, you will be asked to deploy a fleet of 15 trucks, and at least 80% of those have to have a weight of above 26 tons, because the focus is on long-haul interurban traffic areas. Then a minimum of 3 sites will have to be involved in 2 different locations, and each one of these sites will have to serve a fleet of 4 trucks. And please bear in mind that also the precedence here, it's preferred that you consider in your project existing or upgraded infrastructure. And, well, I will not go through the technical details for the trucks. You can see that them listed. But please bear in mind also that one requirement is that you have to operate these trucks for at least a couple of years and total 30,000 kilometers. Why? Because we need to get sufficient information on the technical sides, but also on the economic aspect, so we can also have better understanding of the business cases that we can build around these technologies. So I move on to the next topic, 1.2, which, as I mentioned, share the same logic as the one of trucks. This is dedicated to ships. In this case, 2 are the ships that you will have to deploy, and in 2 different sites. You'll see the requirements. It's a minimum of 400 kilowatt of power for the fuel cell system that you will integrate into the ship, and a total of 1 megawatt. What I would like to highlight here, it's please pay also attention to which one are the eligible costs and what doesn't instead fall within the scope of the proposal. Now, anything that applies to the fuel cell system itself is an eligible cost. Other costs which are linked, for example, to the development of the vessel's hull, for example, obviously is not something that will be financed through this call. And I think these are the key points that we can allow ourselves to go through. And now we move on to the research action. So as we said earlier, now we are focusing on components. The first one is on tanks. Now you have seen calls on tanks also in the past, similar to this one, but where we are putting the accent this year is on the strengthening of the European value chain creation. We want to have more actors at European level, which will lead to increased competition and ultimately to better products, to better tanks that will be pushed through the market. So you see that nonetheless there are also some minimal technical requirements that are needed for the tanks that will need to be financed through this project in terms of storage density and also in terms of cost. And you see these are all advancements compared to the state of the art. Now, given that a lot of attention is given to the creation of a value chain, please also pay attention to the requirements for the consortium configuration and to see which actors are demanded to take part into that. OEM, vessel producers, and material suppliers. So it's important that we have the whole range of actors that are needed. We then move to topic 1.4. This is for fuel system from aerial propulsion. Also, this is somewhat a novelty. Of course, we cannot hope today to provide the propulsion for the normal commercial flights. We are aiming at the smaller flights, of course, smaller aircraft. And the scope of the call here is that we are able to integrate a fuel cell system to for a regional aircraft to up to 19 passengers. Now, bear in mind that, of course, there are a lot of aerial platforms out there. You have seen it. There is a lot of innovation going on there, both in the domain of manned or unmanned aerial devices. So your system should be modular so that you can adapt it to different types of aircraft that could be out there. And one important element here is also, please bear in mind that at a certain point throughout the project, you will also have to have a small demo. So something will have to fly, actually, with your fuel cell system. I then move on to topic 1.5, and here we are going back to, if you want, to the usual suspects. In this case, it's MEAs. And because, of course, here the challenge, the dual challenge remain to decrease cost on one hand while increasing the performances on the other. When it comes to the cost decrease, the path suggested by the call is again is the platinum loading. So there are some requirements to decrease the platinum loading compared to the state of the art, and there is also a target of 6 euros per kilowatt to be achieved. On the other hand, there is also the fairly ambitious target in terms of power density of 1.8 watt per square centimeter. And in this case, it is suggested that this target has to be achieved through the improvement of the single components of the MEA. And you see them listed all in the calls, both those that are within the scope and those that are not in the scope. So also in this case, please pay attention. And I will not repeat them again for the sake of time. And for each one of these components that are within the scope of the call, we didn't set up the target to leave you the freedom to choose your approach. However, you in the proposal will have to specify your own target, the goal that you want to achieve, and you will also have to explain how these single goals will help you to achieve the overall power density target, which is the goal of the call. We then move to another, let's say, old friend, which is stack. Also in this case, we see that the performance is not quite there where we would like it to be. We are not meeting the OEM requirements, and the gap we are not filling this gap sufficiently fast. It seems that by simply adding the improvement that we can get by the single components is not enough to reach this gap. We want to achieve a real leap forward this time. That's why the call it's asking for really disruptive design, a disruptive architecture. Think of the stack as a single element and not simply as a mere aggregation of the different components. Try to conceive it as something that can really give us this added value and fill this gap rapidly. And you will see that consequently the focus is on the interface of optimization between the different components. And also bear in mind that stack design that are also enabling a simpler design of the balance of plant will be privileged and evaluated positively. Last thing that I would like to mention here is also here you will see that you will have to provide a short stack of a minimum 5 kilowatt power. And remember that also the JRC protocols will have to be used for the harmonization of the results. This is really important in this domain. I then move on to the last topic for the transport, which is topic 1.7. And this is again about compression, innovative compression technologies. Also in this case, we have already seen this topic covered in the past, but where we are putting the accent this year is to scaling up, try to support higher flows of hydrogen, and it is specified in the code that at least 50 kilos per hour of hydrogen should be supported. We have seen earlier, we have calls for heavy-duty trucks, ships. We are going big. We have an increasing number of buses and vehicles on the streets. That means we also need to have the appropriate infrastructure to sustain this hydrogen demand. And yes, also in this case, there will be a minimum testing of 6 months within a relevant environment. And you will also, it's important, have to demonstrate that the innovative compression systems that you will put through will not add additional contaminants to hydrogen so that the ISO standards can be respected. Now, as I said, I'm sorry I have little time, so but we will have the brokerage event where we will have the chance to go a bit more into the details. I will now move on to the topic under the overarching activities. As you know, overarching activities, they are not properly transport or energy, they are the merging of the two. And the call of this year is a good example of that. It was said earlier, we are looking at port harbor ecosystems. It's a research and innovation action with a provisional indicative contribution of 4 million. Now, even though the whole, let's say, ecosystem of the harbor is taken into consideration, meaning also the infrastructure, the distribution and provision of hydrogen, the core, let's say, of the proposal is still on the vehicles which are used 24/7 in harbors. As you know, often these are diesel-powered, and they create a lot of problems in terms of also of quality of air. So also in this case, there is a technical potential that we have to demonstrate. We have to put fuel cell systems, and you see the specific technical requirements for these systems into the different number of vehicles that are typically used in harbors, at least 2 of them. And we will have to demonstrate also the minimum lifetime and durability, and also demonstrate the potential cuts that we can achieve in terms of CO2 and other types of pollutants. And with this, I am done with the overview of the transport and the overarching topics. Thank you for attention. I will give the floor to our colleagues from the energy domain. Nikos.
This one, right. Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's over there. My name is Nikos Limberopoulos. I follow projects related to hydrogen production. This is going to be a joint presentation between myself and my colleague, Antonio Aquilo. So I'll be presenting you just 4 topics, the ones related to hydrogen production. So what is the main focus for this year? Well, it's basically increasing even more the capacities of electrolyzers, both low temperature and high temperature. Also revisiting the production of hydrogen from concentrated solar energy through thermochemical cycles, and finally supporting the development of hydrogen storage technologies, hydrogen carriers. What is new? We are pushing high temperature electrolyzers towards the megawatt scale. It's an area where Europe excels, and we are further supporting this. We are revisiting, I would say, concentrated solar, not going bigger, but doing a bit more research on materials, and also supporting the development of hydrogen carriers. So these are the 4 topics. There are 2 demonstration, innovation actions, and 2 research. For the first 2, the budget is an eligibility criterion, so cannot be exceeded. Not the case for the research topics. So let's go straight into the descriptions. Topic 2.1 is the demonstration of a 20 megawatt low temperature electrolyzer. So this electrolyzer needs to be developed in the context of the project and eventually demonstrated for 3 to 4 years in a suitable industrial scale application. It's important to try and valorize as much as possible the renewable value of hydrogen, either placing this electrolyzer close to a wind park, for example. You have also to aim for a minimum footprint, single balance of plant to reduce the costs, and 2 industrial sectors, which is steel and oil refineries, are excluded, as we have already covered those in the past. Point 2.2 is the large-scale high-temperature electrolyzer, solid oxide electrolyzer. So we are now moving close to megawatt scale. Capacities of 15 kilograms per hour are sought. 2 years of operation without any stack replacement. That's also an important target. Less than 5 minutes start, a hot start of less than 5 minutes, and more than 90% availability. The 2 research topics are those 2.4 and 2.5. 2.4 is the thermochemical hydrogen production from concentrated solar. We already are supporting a project with 750 kilowatts, but we're not going any higher. The efficiencies measured were too low. We are revisiting, therefore, the materials. This is metal oxides or sulfur cycles that we have supported in the past, and this has to be a continuation of those 2 routes. But material stability, cyclability has to be improved. Also the design of these cycles. We aim for 1,000 cycles or 5,000 hours of operation. Heat recovery rates need to be improved to reduce heat losses of the flushing gas. All these things were very detrimental. Aim for a 10% solar to hydrogen efficiency design and eventually 5% in the field. Still early days for this route if we are to one day compete with the PV electrolyzer combinations. Last point, 2.5. Hydrogen carriers for stationary storage and distribution of hydrogen using excess renewable energy. We aim to develop and demonstrate a system that will store 50 kilograms of hydrogen on site, have more than 70% round-trip efficiency, and also please note that last year we had another topic that covered liquid organic hydrogen carriers, and therefore these are excluded this year. And with this, I will pass the floor to my colleague Antonio and wish you best of luck for your proposals.
Good morning, everyone on my side as well. I'm very glad to be here today. I'm going to be presenting the topics that concern stationary applications of fuel cells, and together with my colleague Dionysis, we follow this portfolio of projects. So what's the main focus in this call? The focus is clearly on solid oxide fuel cells. There is an element on solid oxide electrolyzers, which is combining some of the topics. And then we are going to continue exploring and optimizing routes in which we can take advantage of waste of biomass for energy production, energy storage using fuel cells technology. and electrolyzer. It's about demonstrating new markets. We continue doing that through demonstration projects. And in this year, we are going to be looking at the use of fuel cells for remote power applications. We have 4 topics, pretty much around close to 30% of the budget for the energy for the energy budget, and 3 million of those goes for demonstration project. Now, this is an eligibility criteria. We have a maximum of 3 million that you will be able to apply, so you cannot exceed this contribution in your project for the innovation action that we have on remote power supply. And then we have 3 topics, research innovation actions with the budgets that you can see in here. First of the topic, it's about unlocking market for fuel cells for the generation of power in remote applications. What do we mean by remote applications in this call? It's about gas and oil infrastructures, and it's about also telecom towers. We want to replace inefficient conventional solution. We believe, the industry believes, there is a market there to be unlocked, and for that we need a long track record of installations in real conditions, so we are looking at real installations here. We need to look at efficiencies. We need to demonstrate this long-term track record in the harsh climate conditions that remote applications mean. It's about looking at reliability, service lifetime, and maintenance. And there is a minimum of 24 months that the project will have to be taking data and demonstrating the units. No less than 15 units, power range of each unit between 0.5 and 5 kilowatts, with an overall capacity deployed in the project of 15 kilowatts. To maximize the impacts, it's important that all actors are there throughout the whole value chain. We want to see that at least 3 stack manufacturers or fuel cell integrators are in the project. And most importantly, or as important, is the end users. We want to see that proposals that you are putting forward come with a strong commitment of the end users. That can be done through conditional orders or by having them into the project teams. And of course, we want to see cost reductions as a first step to set the basis for further market uptake. And that has to be done through the value engineering, but also to making sure that the units are ready for manufacturing at large, for serial production. Moving now to the research actions. Interconnects are key. We're looking at developing cell solutions. We want to scale them up into stacks. Interconnects are a key element of that. For solid oxide-based technology, that's very, very important, even more because of the harsh, the demanding operating conditions. So what we want to see here in this topic 2.6 is development of cost-effective novel interconnects for both solid oxide fuel cells and solid oxide electrolyzer cells. So that's the both applications that we cover in this topic. Important, projects should manage to achieve 3 hours of demonstration and to do 50 cycles in a 1 kilowatt electrical stack. So when planning your project, make sure that you allow for that to take place within the project duration. It's about demonstrating low-cost fabrication technologies and solutions that are adaptable to any stack design. That's a key element that you will have to demonstrate, because what we really want to do is to increase and to strengthen the supply chain, the universality of the solutions provided, and again, ready for mass manufacturing processes, again, with the cost reduction in mind. Maximization of impacts. We want to see that the projects are taken forward once they are finalized. We need to have all the value chain involved in the project, European value chain. So we want to see that at least 1 component manufacturer is there and 1 stack manufacturer is also in the consortia. It's a whole range of KPIs. I would just say here that it's both for electrolyzer and fuel cell operating modes, and you can look at them in detail in the work program. Next topic. It builds a bit on what we've seen so far. We have a demonstration project that is using biogas for fuel cell, for a high temperature fuel cell, but we've seen also that the efforts in terms of cost that requires for the processing of the biogas is still too high to come up with a competitive solution. So what we are doing now, we are putting forward this research and innovation action to precisely address that, to come up with a one-shop or one-stop appliance, if you want, that will require minimal gas pre-processing, that then will allow any fuel cell manufacturer, high-temperature fuel cell manufacturer, to take advantage of that. So it's about cost reduction, opening up, again, markets for the use of biogas to heat and power. Efficiency has to be demonstrated, 53% electrical efficiency considering both the fuel cells and the gas processing system, and cost less than 3,500 euros per kilowatt, again, considering fuel cell and the processing system of the biogas. Important, as in any research action, we want to see that results continue after the project, that someone takes that forward, and we want to have at least 2 high-temperature fuel cells manufacturers as a means also to demonstrate the universability of the solution provided for the processing of the biogas. And then we are not looking at demonstration in this project because of the budget limitations, but we want to see that the design of a full-scale system is included in detail in the project. And the last of the topics, topic 2.8, another research and innovation action taking place at TRL level 2. What we're looking here is about how can we look in the future to take advantage of solid oxide membrane reactors as a way to use waste and biomass streams for production and for energy storage. Now, there are a number of requirements in the topic. It's quite detailed in our work program, but just a few points to consider. It's about, first of all, identifying low-grade waste streams and the means in which we can transform them into heat, power, but also as a way to store energy. So it's gas to power, power to gas. And when doing that, we have to think about what would be the future energy scenario. It's a scenario with high penetration of variable renewables. So how can the solutions provided enter and facilitate the integration of a large scale of renewables? Key to identify whether there are viable business cases. That's important because this project is actually going to set the pathway for a future development of the solutions exploring the project. And we're looking at large-scale solutions, 1 megawatt up all the way up to the gigawatt scale. So, all in all, this is a project that focuses on conceptual engineering work rather than experimental. But what is important is that you come up with new solutions in the projects, and you will have to demonstrate that when you are putting together your proposal. That's it on stationary. I give the floor to Alberto to present the cross-cutting activities.
Thank you very much, Antonio. Good morning, everyone. I'm Alberto, and I will present the cross-cutting topics. I would like to start refreshing that cross-cutting is a horizontal activity area within the FCH JU program. The activities are, we try to coordinate activities within this area that supports and enables the activities undertaken within the other 2 pillars, but also to facilitate the market entry of these technologies. This year we have included, or we have published 4 topics within cross-cutting. 3 of them focus on pre-normative research and regulation codes and standards. One of them is addressing topics of issues on safety related aspects, mainly on traffic infrastructures. The second topic is on hydrogen mixtures. We are going to explore, it's the first of its kind, and we are going to address the hydrogen and natural gas blends at European level. The third topic is focused on the performance and durability of fuel cells. This year we will focus on solid oxide cells. And the last one is it's a focus on public awareness and social acceptance through education and training. We have, as I said, 4 topics. 3 of them are research and innovation actions, and with a total budget of total FCH contribution of 8.75 million euros. So let's see the topics. The first 2 topics, as I mentioned, it's research. They are research and innovation actions. The first topic is pre-normative research for around safety on traffic infrastructures, mainly tunnels, but also we would like to explore, or we would like to address other parking, other confined infrastructures like parkings. The idea is to review the state of art, what's going on around safety aspects in traffic infrastructures, identify the knowledge gaps, and also to make an experimental program in order to gather new data, with the idea of providing an improved prevention and mitigation strategies, new engineering tools, that the idea to provide recommendations, but also something that is very important is that this is a pre-normative research topics, so it's normative focused, and all proposals addressing these topics should make clear how they're going to address the standards, the corresponding standards, because we would like to ensure that the information generated within these projects are really transferred in the standards. The second topic is, as I mentioned, the first of its kind. We are going to work on hydrogen admixtures in the natural gas grid. We would like to establish a European understanding on what's the hydrogen, the maximum hydrogen concentration in the natural gas grid. To do so, we have published this topic, Innovative Research Issues, which is mainly focused on end-user appliances, cookers, heaters, combined heat and power. We would like to see what's the effect on hydrogen, a higher concentration of hydrogen in these appliances. But also we would like to check, and we would like to see a techno-economic assessment and analysis of the impact of increasing hydrogen in the natural gas grid could make at European level. We would like to gather new knowledge. We would like to provide recommendations to standards in order to provide basically a roadmap on how to increase hydrogen at European level, hydrogen in the natural gas grid. The next topic is also a innovative research topic, is dealing with accelerated stress testing protocols. We would like to develop new testing protocols in order to reduce the time needed to bring new materials to these technologies, focus on solid oxide cells. We would like that the projects addressing this topic identify the degradation mechanism, developed advanced characterization techniques. Of course, they have to develop these protocols and the evaluation and criteria and the validation methodology. As I mentioned, this is a pre-normative research, so it's very important that the proposals, they make clear how they're going to address the corresponding standards, and how they plan to transfer the information coming up from the projects into the related standards. And finally, the last topic is coordination and support action. The idea is to raise public awareness and social acceptance around these technologies by means of creating and developing a set of educational material, but targeting primary and secondary education. The idea is to build also local networks between the educational institutions, policymakers, industry, and so on, which definitely will raise public acceptance and social awareness about these technologies. And we really expect to bring a long-lasting educational delivery model that is replicable in other regions of the world, so we can really replicate this experience across Europe or throughout Europe. That's all for cross-cutting, and I would like to take a minute also to highlight some requirements, some additional requirements that are included in every single topic. The first one is the obligation to report to HIAD, the Hydrogen Reference Database, formerly known as HIAD. Now the new name is HELEN, which stands for Hydrogen Events and Lesson Learned. And every single proposal or every single project will have to report any event related with hydrogen into this database, with the idea to provide lesson learned and also to gather the best practices. One thing that also is very important is that every topic which includes testing of systems and so on should establish clear links with the ongoing activities that we have within the FCH JU program together with JRC. We have this harmonization and validation testing protocols with JRC, and we would like to be sure that every project test their systems according to these testing protocols. And finally, last but not least, one of the activities that we have within the knowledge management office, within the program office, is the technology monitoring, and all proposals, all projects will have to report following a structured template, some information that we gather, and the idea is to collect all this information in the same format, so we can then derive a lesson learned, and we can show that technology is progressing and it's being improved. And I think that's all, and we have now time for the question and answer session. So thank you very much for your attention, and I will pass the floor to Mirela.
Thank you to my team again. I think it was a very nice walk through the main important issues of any of the topics. But like I said at the beginning, I will kindly recommend, or strongly even recommend, that you read them carefully. I can tell you that when we write this type of topics, we are very careful with every single word. So every single word has a meaning. So please pay attention to that, because that's how our experts are evaluating the proposals. So we are a bit late, but I think we can eat 5 minutes from the networking coffee break. So now it's time for questions on the presentations you just heard. We got 4 questions online, and I would like to address them first. I think it's just fair to the people listening that we answer to them, and we'll try to do it quickly. So we got a question on the topic 3.1, which is the overarching topic on how to demonstrate the 20,000 hours lifetime. I think it's pretty easy to answer to that. I'll give the floor to my colleague Enrique.
Well, in fact, there is not one answer. It's really up to the consortium to demonstrate this 20,000 hours of lifetime. You can do it, I can think of the top of my head a couple of ways, like through accelerated test, degradation test, or based on the degradation of the 5,000 hours that anyhow you have to demonstrate, or you can use models, but really it's up to the consortium to decide how to demonstrate this 20,000 hours.
Second question we got was for the topic 2.1, which is the big demo, how we call it, a 20 megawatts electrolyzer, and that's more of on a consortium nature, consortium building nature. The person who addressed the question, it says that there is no requirements for consortium composition in the call, and it's asking, is it allowed to include, for instance, the electrolyzer manufacturer as a subcontractor? I think, again, we have a pretty clear answer, but again, I'll give the floor to Nikos. I know how to answer to all of them, but...
Well, in any proposal, whoever partner has a significant role cannot be a subcontractor. And in this topic, we expect the development of the electrolyzer. It's a very important role, and therefore cannot be a subcontract.
Or if I have to quote from the grant rules, a critical task of any grant should not be subcontracted. In that case, the organization should be a beneficiary of the grant. The third is not a question, it's more a statement that we got, and I think it's very good, so that's why I'm going to read it. It's from the UK National Contact Point. You can guess what is the statement. It's about eligibility of UK organization to participate in the call, and I would like to confirm, because that is going probably to be said later also in the presentation. Yes, they are eligible. Just to remind you, UK is still a member state of the EU with the same rights and obligations like before. So we would encourage that you treat the UK participant in the same way like you treat any other participant from any member states. So until the UK leaves the EU, they have and they should benefit again from the same rights and obligations. So please, with that, I encourage you to involve UK participants. In the past, they have proven to us they are very valuable, and it would be a pity that because of the political situation, we have low-quality consortia or low-quality proposals. So please, I encourage, on the other hand, to involve UK participants. Don't treat them differently. Topic 2.5, and that's the last question we got online. On the hydrogen carriers, and it's asking which kind of hydrogen carrier is expected as liquid organic is explicitly excluded, like my colleague Nikos mentioned, and hydrides have been demonstrated at high scale. So again, I give the floor to Nikos.
Thank you, Mirela. Well, I think it's for the consortium to answer this. Liquid organic carriers are definitely excluded. Metal hydrides are included, are not excluded. I think the criterion there is the 70% round trip efficiency along with the 50 kilograms of hydrogen storage. These are the two beacons to which the consortia should aim for.
For the same aspects of, I could call it practicalities, I saw people taking pictures. The presentations will be online. So from tomorrow we will try to put them on the same link where our info day is. So don't worry, you can find the presentations of today from tomorrow on our website. That's one aspect. Second, you can still continue to address questions to us even after today through the same means, mainly the email address that has been given. So this FCH project is a mailbox that my team, the project officers, have access to. So please continue to address questions if later on when you write your proposal, you still have questions for us. Now, I'll open the floor for questions, and I think we can go for 10 minutes. Yes, I'll take it. Yes, please. Do we have another mic? Yes, thank you.
So my name is Ioan Iordaș. I have one question for last topics regarding public acceptance and awareness. There is a minimal number of language or something like that because it's people's schools, so the English is not so easier for them to understand. Can make a lot of webs in English, but seriously, we learn English in years, not 10 years. So.
Yes, thank you. If I don't recall wrongly, I think there is a requirement in the topic, and there is a minimum of 10 languages. So the educational training program should include this aspect. So minimum 10 languages.
Okay, thank you.
There is a question there. There is still a question there? Yes.
Hello, my name is Natalia Ivanova. I'm representing Norwegian Cluster of Expertise Maritime Clean Tech. I have a question to the topic 1.2. I'm wondering if I understood it correctly that the development of fuel cell technology itself is not an eligible cost, since one says that we should base on the existing projects from before. Thank you.
Enrique?
Yeah, so you are encouraged indeed to use the results of previous projects. What is covered by the cost is like the integration of the system, the adaptation of the systems within the ships. But the development of anything else that, I don't know, like that concern the ship itself, the hull, or paying the crew, these are the costs that are not eligible. And this is also the same logic is also what is applied also for the port, in case you're interested. Also in that case, you are not as to, it's not a part of the scope of the call to the R&D for the development of the system itself, but the cost of the integration into the vehicles is what is covered. I hope it clarifies.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other question? There is one in the back. As before, please introduce yourself first. Yeah.
Good morning, this is Stefano Barberis from Marina Consulting. Just one question about this last sentence about port application. Is the cost of the vehicle, of the handling vehicle, eligible in the funding or not? Just to be clarified. Of the vehicle, of the handling vehicle. Because I understood that the fuel cell system obviously is, and its integration is eligible, but I didn't understand for the vehicle itself, the crane or the forklift.
Well, in principle, no. And I want to be clear. We have that project has very limited budget. So the idea is that you spend the budget in the integration and adaptation of these vehicles to integrate the fuel cell system. The moment if you try to put the crane into the cost, you will not run out of budget. You will not have enough budget. So, in principle, although you can include it in the cost, in principle, what is eligible is the integration of the fuel cell system into that vehicle, and of course the demonstration of how it runs and so forth. But if don't include the truck or the crane, because you'll run out of budget.
Thank you. Any other question? Yes, we go that way. First, just wait for the mic, please.
Patrice Flo, CMR, about the cross-cutting coal for hydrogen into the gas pipes. Mm-hmm. It seems that there is a call for the situation today with limitations. Is there a window for new technology breaking the limits?
Well, it's. I think that the topic is most focused on the understanding the effect of increasing the hydrogen concentration as a mean in the natural gas grid in terms of cookers, heaters, and so on. And also to make the techno-economic assessment. I do not recall that the topic is really asking for innovative technologies on how to increase the hydrogen. As it is written, and it's somehow well known, up to 10%, 2%, 10%, it's considered that it could be feasible. In some cases, we have references of studies that up to even 20% locally, it could be possible. And the idea here is to collect all this information and to have a European opinion and worldwide, European-wide accepted statement on what's the maximum concentration of hydrogen that we can reach, and if we want to increase, what would be the steps in terms of certification, but also in terms of regulatory barriers and regulatory aspects that needs to be addressed in order to increase this concentration over time. That's the idea.
We still have a question there.
Angelo Moreno, Athena Cluster. I have one question about topic 1.5 and 1.6. Both topics are research, innovation, action, but one says that the TRL, the starting point is 2.2 or 3, and the ending point is 5, while the 1.6 is only from 2 to 3. It seems to me that both topics are at the same level. Why you think that we will be able to go in topic 1.5 from TRL 2 to TRL 5? I think that both are basic research, and I think it's a little bit ambitious to go to TRL 5.
I can see a simple judgment. Sorry for that. With get you to this conclusion. But when you look at the description of the topic and the activities which are foreseen to be done in the topic, and to the definition, so what means 2, what means 3, what means 5, as the technology readiness level, I think you can understand why one wants to go from materials, TRL2, to the 5, so even to the testing in an environment, managed environment, I can say, not a real environment, while the other just wants to go to the proof of concept level, which is 3. So it's by the type of the activities that you want to do, and to the definition of the TRL. This is how we thought, and we discussed it when we wrote the topic and put the TRL. This is how we thought it's the progress, respectively. I don't know if Kike wants to add anything. I see him nodding.
Just to complement, and so that everybody is in the same page. The first topic is more about evolution. So you have something that you've developed and you improve the materials for MEA development and so forth. The other one is more disruptive. We want to new concepts, something that's completely new for the fuel cell design, and therefore that's why we don't expect such a big jump. But we want to come from some more conceptual TRL2 to one step forward to 3, and that's the different. There is a different focus in each topics. One is evolution, one is revolution, if you want.
Okay, there is a question there.
My name is Shama Anderson from University of Southern Denmark. The topic, for instance, reduced or zero platinum is one of the goals I can hear several times. It's based on the fact that platinum, precious metal, it's a critical material, limited, expensive. I wonder the technological development based on secondary production, for instance, recycling, it's eligible for this kind of activity?
Which precisely the activity? Because just to, I get from your wonder, it's not really a question. I get from what you say that one, you talk about low platinum activities and then recycling. That's what I'm getting. And if I talk about low platinum, we had a call last year, and we have just started projects to look at that. So that would be one thing. And in terms of recycling, we have, I think, in the call 2015, the high-tech cycling project, which is looking at different aspects of recycling. Right now, I don't remember in any of the topics that would look at low platinum or recycling as a focus of the project. I'm talking focus of the project. However, if in any of your proposals, you also see that these are aspects which will improve the economics or the reducing of the critical raw materials, and you want to introduce it as small part of the project, that would be, of course, eligible. I don't think an expert will say why you do that if you justify this is needed for the project or to reach the KPI. But it should not be the focus of the project, because as we have seen, the focus of the projects this year is different. Okay? Any other question? Okay, we still have one. Then we may break for a coffee.
Hello, my name is Martijn Mulder. I at Hydrogen. I have a question on the topic 1.7 on the development of innovative compression concepts. In the scope it says demonstrate less than 5% of the invest cost per year. And also it says demonstrate less than 1% performance decay in 1,000 hours of testing. How should we prove the maintenance cost? Well, we can only, let's say, do 1,000 hours of testing. Can it also be done with extrapolation or with modeling?
Is there any requirement for number of hours for testing? You can realize I don't remember by heart all the topics.
It says, and I quote, demonstrate less than 1% performance decay in 1 hours of operation.
Okay. So there is...
Here I would quote Mirela in the very first thing she said. Please read the topics very, very carefully. So whatever is said here is law, if you want, or that's how the experts will judge you. If in the topic it doesn't give you any indication or any requirements for minimum amount of testing, which is not the case, then you can demonstrate that in any ways you want. It's similar to the first question we had this morning. Again, think how the experts will. You have to convince the experts that the solution you are giving is the best for what the requirements of the call. So there is no requirement there is of minimum amount of time that you have to test the equipment, and therefore you could demonstrate this less of 1% in 1,000 hours in any other way, but convince the experts. Okay.
Last question? No question, everybody's thirsty. Okay, so we go for a break, for a coffee. I would kindly ask you still to come back at 11. I apologize for shortening your time for coffee, but I think 20 minutes should be enough. So thank you. We see each other back at 11.
Ahora te contaré, porque además soy el coordinador del Flagship Project de España por toda Francia, a la parte de transporte. Estamos ahí, que lo presentamos el otro día en diciembre, lo presentó el Ministerio de Industria. Aquí estamos y bueno, estamos ahí, nos trabajamos un tiempo a ayudar a impulsar todo el tema y estamos ahí y en Portugal más. Yo mismo, yo soy el que está tirando también de Portugal, o sea, estamos ahí un poquito. Entonces, bueno, nos pidió el Ministerio que actuásemos un poco de...